Hey, this is Legendary Beats, and you're watching 7 Steps to a Legendary Mix. In this episode, we're going to be talking about compression and pretty much how to use that in your mix. The big secret is that I don't do much compression. Compression is good, especially when you're using vocals in your track. For some sounds, you may need some compression. Um, but for this project, on most of my beats, I only use compression on the percussion, which is the drums, which is the kick, snares, hi-hats, etc. So pretty much I'm gonna go through that right now. So this is gonna be a very short video. I think I said that for the last one, but it ended up being 15 minutes. So this one I'll try to strictly keep it under 15 minutes, hopefully 5. So let's start. So let's see. I'll start off with just the drums. Alright, so somewhere I saw I used someone has suggested use a multi-band compressor, and preset go to, I believe, is mastering 2.4 dB. Now what this is gonna do is it's gonna boost the sound, but yet keep it as close to 0 dB as possible, but keep it under 0 dB. So that's, I think I have to put at the top. Is that how it works? Let me see if I put it down. Yeah. Okay. So without it, let's see how it works without it. It's kind of the same. A little bit. With the compressor, it boosts it up a little bit. Makes it hit a little harder. I don't know if you can hear that, but it hits a lot more harder without. This is without. This is with. Okay. I might change a lot of those sounds. I don't like some of them. Like that clap. So it boosts those sounds a little bit. Now what the compressor does, if you look at a basic compressor, what it allows you to do is, it allows you to set the threshold, ratio, and gain. I'm still learning about compression. It's very useful. I found it to be very useful on vocals. What it does is it allows you to, depending on how you set it, and it depends on the sound, obviously. Say if the sound has, it peaks, or if you ever heard of vocals when someone tried to mix their own track and you hear the vocal raise, per se the verse is low and then it raises, like it pops up and down throughout the verse. Compression allows you to find that high frequency, to find that level where it's high, and then be able to compress that level so that it comes down to match the other level. So therefore you get a consistent flow without losing too much of the body of the sound. That's pretty much how compression works. Too much compression makes your track, or makes the sound flat. It's hard for me to show an example here, mainly because this track that I'm currently working on in this beat doesn't really have a lot of sounds that need compression. I only use it on, you know, the percussion, because most of the other sounds are already clear. They're not moving around too much. But yeah, but as you can see, it already boosts up the sound a little bit. And that's pretty much as much compression I would say that I need. But if you do add on vocals, sometimes, especially if you recorded your own vocals, the compression helps that out. Maybe in another video I'll add that in. But that's pretty much just a little tip. At least I was able to tell you some things, to give you some insight on how compression works. But pretty much you're able to set the threshold, ratio, and gain. So the threshold is kind of, it's like a gauge of how much compression, well, not really how much compression, but wow, it's kind of hard. How hard to explain it, because you'd have to mess around with it yourself to actually see what I'm saying. But when you set your threshold, pretty much this is saying, it's looking at around, you know, you're seeing the dB here, 17 dB threshold. And what this ratio does is, like, usually they would say 2, I think it's 2 to 2 for vocals is more than enough. And oh man, I wish I could explain this better, but you have to physically mess with it yourself and see it work. It's hard for me to show you. Unfortunately, this track that I'm working on doesn't really allow me to show you exactly how this works. But as I said, compression allows for you to control sounds that are kind of out of order. So if your sound is consistently hitting, you know, 8, or, you know, hitting 5 dB, negative 5 dB, and then there's that one part in the song, your vocal, whatever it is, that it boosts up to negative 1 dB or negative 2 dB. What you could do is, in the compression, you could set your threshold. Usually for vocals you would set it around like 26 to 30 or something like that, and then your ratio, you would play with the ratio. The ratio, it's kind of like a, if you want to say, a multiplier almost. The lower it is, the less effect this threshold has. And then what you would do is, it allows you also to mess with the gain. So if, per se, if you watch the meter and it loses, if per se it hits to 2, that 2 dB, then you could gain to boost it back up to that 2 dB, because you're losing sound. But compression, it all depends on you, really. I would say only use it on vocals or sounds that are peaking in certain areas, and then you try to use the compressor to find that frequency and bring it down to match the others. Don't use compression to compress the whole, you know, sound on the whole too much, because then if you don't do it correctly, it could destroy the sound and make it sound flat. So here you could listen to the drums. It sounds a little bit more louder and harder. If I take off the EQ for all of them, you can already hear that it got softer. But let me put it back on. Yeah, that sounded pretty clear. Alright, so I'm already about to hit 10 minutes, so that's pretty much the insight that I could give you on compression. You don't have to use a lot of compression. Compression usually comes in, especially when you're using samples, you're using vocals, or using crazy sounds that are jumping around too much and you want to control it and contain it a little bit. Do not use compression to flatten off a sound. Do not overuse compression to, you know, flatten vocals or audio sounds, that's just gonna make your whole track sound flat. Maybe as an effect, sometimes it might work, but there's other effects that you can use for that, like filters and things like that. The more you compress is the more you're taking away from the body of the sound, which you don't want to do. You want your track to sound as full as possible and as real as possible. So too much compression can destroy that and compromise that. I hope this video helped. The next topic we're going to be touching is mastering. Now, I did show you guys in video 1, in my master track, there you were seeing that I had Maximus on there. If I don't see a lot of likes and comments and interaction on these videos, I'm not really going to give the insight on that, because as I told you before, I sworn into secrecy of not to, someone had told me that secret in confidence. And I think it really works. It's like a reverse engineer way of mastering your track for beats mostly, but not when you're recording. But this is for beats, strictly for beats, and you can judge me however you want. But as you can hear, the sounds are clear, everything is clear because of that aspect. But even if I took that off, it would still sound clear. So even if I did this, and this is kind of a little above, but that's fine. See, now this just makes it sound a little louder. And I'm not going to tell you what the settings are on that. As I told you, that's if I get a lot more insight or a lot of feedback from you guys, then I'll definitely show you what I did with that Maximus that gave me a fuller, more louder sounding track. But as you can hear, even with just the basic mix without that Maximus setting, it's still there. This just needs to be controlled. That's easy. And one thing I would like to say is that I didn't mention this in a lot of the other videos, is that your track, while you're mixing, you want to watch this master track. Make sure it doesn't pass 0 dB. Main reason why is because this is how you control. When it's above 0 dB, you're peaking, sound distorted, things like that. So even in this mix, I took off the Maximus settings. I have a custom setting there on Maximus, which I'm not going to get into, but I'm gonna take that off. That was controlling what was passing here. But I'm gonna leave that off. And here, I'm just gonna play without the Maximus, and then make sure that doesn't go down. So it looks like I could bring this down. There we go. And as you can see, it's controlled. Now that's a nice mix right there. And that's based off of volume and the EQ. So, this is just helping me get a more fuller sound. But if you can get your master track to stay below that 0 dB, be as close as possible, but below it a little bit, just barely hitting it, then you kind of know you have a clean mix, especially if you're listening to it and you're hearing it and everything sounds nice and clean. That has everything to do with the volume, and has everything to do with the EQ that you've done, has everything to do with the small compression that you did. And so I hope all these videos are now coming together, helping you build that amazing project that you're working on, making your beats sound epic. So next track, well, actually, this kind of concludes everything. I don't want to do that video on mastering until I get a lot of feedback from this. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna stop talking. I'm just gonna do that mastering track. I'm gonna do a basic mastering concept for you guys. And yeah, uh, hope this video helped you out. Be sure to hit that like, comment, and subscribe buttons below. Give some feedback on these videos. Let me know if they helped you out. And I've already hit my 15 minutes mark. Sorry for talking so much. But yeah, hope it helped. This is Legendary Beats, and I'm out.